Hey, what's going on? Watchlist Live, everyone. Right after the presidential debate, there's a lot. I'm sure everyone's talking about this, so everyone's going to be sprinkled all over the place trying to decide who to discuss this with. The randomness that's going on, the rambling, the freezes, the problems that we all saw. I've got all kinds of notes written down. I just want to jump in here to discuss a little bit of it because I was yelling at the computer by myself for an hour and a half rather than yelling at you guys, which I'm just about to do. So we'll let folks file in as usual, a late night live on the watch list so we can discuss what just went down since it was the biggest presidential debate of all time in the most influential and the most important election of our lifetimes, like the last eight. We know we got that as the approach. More folks coming in. Everyone is talking and everyone is listening and analyzing, and CNN is analyzing, and MSNBC is analyzing. I know everyone is spread all over the place. Let me know if you guys jumped in here yet before I get to all of these thoughts about what went down here. Oh, let me open this. This is a disaster of a moment for you guys. What has happened to Joe Biden, which I guess a lot of folks saw coming. Um, but who really knew? What's up, Melody Baroff from North Carolina? Good to see you on the spot. We're gonna wait maybe one more minute before I jump into everything I wanted to say. I know you guys may not have everything to jump in and say yet. I'm just curious if you guys saw what I saw. Oh, you're hearing about it first now, Jamal, from me. Well, I'm honored that you're going to hear about it from me first, because I might have the same thing to say that most everyone else will, whether or not they're supporting Joe Biden or supporting Donald Trump, because it was pretty straightforward what we saw happen tonight. 10 more seconds, then I'll go ahead and start. Okay, so I wrote down some of the things that went down, and it was noticeable literally from the start. I'm not sure if anyone else noticed this, but I definitely did, because as I watched the pre-debate discussion go down, folks on panels on CNN and MSNBC and Fox News analyst panels were talking about maybe the prep that some of the folks had, what were they expecting. One person even mentioned how nervous both of the candidates must be. Actually, that they had inside information that they both were, because again, all the pressure that's been put on this particular thing. But Biden started out before, for folks who didn't see it, because I'm sure most people did, but for folks who didn't see it, what I noticed immediately, Biden came out of the gates and was spilling, just spilling everything that he had packed into his brain to spill out and say and make the point and go in this direction and trigger him. At this point, it was like a roadmap that they had planned for him to just go into. I don't know why anybody does that. Well, I mean, I guess I do know why someone would do that, but I don't know why they would do that here. They knew the biggest problem was going to be Joe Biden and having the ability to go through this entire thing and continue to make sense. Maybe put together some sentences. Maybe come up with a rebuttal to the lies that Donald Trump would say. Maybe any of that stuff. I didn't know what to expect. I got to be honest. I've been talking a lot about how the Trump world is all afraid of going after Biden because of the way that they're responding, not because they should have any reason to be. And tonight it was proven that they had no reason to be. It had nothing to do with his ability to tell his record. None of that, because he kind of did here and there and sprinkled it in when you could understand what the hell he was saying. But he came out regurgitating all the talking points right off the top. And I wasn't sure yet if it was as bad of a sign as I thought it was when I heard it, because I didn't want to be a pessimist straight off the bat. As soon as he spilled all those guts and then started slowing down at the back end of the spill, I was like, I think this was the preparation. This was the intense preparation. This was the intense preparation for folks who had him off away from folks for a week, however long it was, in preparation for this debate. And it was just, here, Joe, let's pack all this stuff into your brain. Maybe you had it in there at some point. Let's do a million refreshers. This is what we're going to do. And that's not what he did. He just continued the same approach of spilling in every answer that he could, starting fast and ending slow, if he ended at all. And I remember I checked the clock, and I must have seen it coming. Like I said, it was 11 minutes in, maybe 11 and a half. I wish I had the second counter on it, but it was between 11 and 12 minutes. And he stumbled and fell apart on probably the first or second answer. I wrote the freeze here, and it came only after the initial moments. It was right when I was noticing that they were already creating two different realities, which we've already seen. There's alternative facts and then there's real facts. And Joe Biden wasn't able to recite because that was the approach they took. The facts. He was just reciting them, but he wasn't able to tell the story of them. He wasn't able to connect them to the way that they were discussing these topics. He wasn't able to bring back something they talked about before and connect it to a topic that they had later. He wasn't able to. If anybody's going to deny that, they're going to be lying to themselves, and they're going to be lying to you. Now, it was so bad, you kind of couldn't listen to anything else he was saying. I wrote so many damn notes that I can't even get to the points of, because it'll take another hour and a half for me to go through all of this. But I was trying to make sure I remembered everything that gave me a half of a thought, so I could tell you guys the roller coaster of devastation that this guy went through that entire time. I mean, I felt like he needed water. We always know he has that little choke up sound in his throat, but dude couldn't put the thoughts together. And every time he did, it was almost like, oh, okay, good for you, bro. You got one out. That's kind of it. That was the victory, was getting one out, maybe three. But every time he got those 1 to 3 out, then he stopped again. So as some of the strategies went, I'm curious what you guys are saying, actually. Now let me go ahead and look a little bit, because that was my first initial thoughts, and some of the things that I was concerned with. His voice was shot, yes. Some people saying liberals are tweaking. Yeah, maybe many of them are, but this is the thing. I don't think anybody didn't know this. It was just a matter of whether or not they're going to keep making this the subject of discussion, and he made it that way. That's just what he was. It's who he is. It's what he's got. Bottom line. So this is going to turn into, and I've seen, other folks saying it's time to switch up the candidate. Honestly, nothing that they do as far as this approach is going to look good anymore at all. You switch up the candidate, and then you go with whoever else, and that becomes the narrative when it comes to the presidential election. They dumped out the guy that they said was ready. No, but if they keep him, they're going to keep the guy that everyone knows can't get through a debate. I mean, he used to. This is one of those things. If you're actually bad at debating, and then they can at least write that off as that's something he has to work on. He used to be able to speak. He can't speak that way anymore. Again, this isn't supposed to be an insult for any of his policies or any of that stuff, but you couldn't hear his policies. You couldn't pay attention to the lies that Donald Trump told, and there was many. You couldn't even, so everything Donald Trump would say, you would just kind of go, oh yeah, Donald Trump is saying something and he's coming for him. But it didn't really matter, because you're too busy waiting to see if Joe Biden is going to be able to say something. The next question. It was all about Joe Biden. He took all the attention in the room, but it wasn't very good attention. It was constant, like, you watch like his face, you watch his eyeballs, you watch his nose, you watch his chin, you watch the way he holds his mouth open, and you're like, wait, is this the point? Wait, is he thinking right now? It distracted you from anything else that was happening, which then I pointed out when I was going through all this, it allowed Donald Trump to avoid every answer that would have made him have to be backed into a corner and maybe answer for his record, his stance on things. As soon as those questions were asked, and then the moderators reiterated them at times and came back to Trump and said, "Yo, you didn't answer the question." One specifically that I remember is, "Would you accept the results of the election, whether win or lose?" He didn't answer the question outside of saying, "Well, if it's fair." That's the same thing he's been saying since it was fair, and he's claimed that it's not. And he also started off by saying, yeah, I mean, I wish I didn't have to do this. I wish it wasn't this way. He never answers those questions, because those make him look bad. And he had plenty of a bunch of reasons to show that this guy across from him looked worse. Not on the topics, not on the things that they've said and done, but on how badly Joe Biden couldn't get through it. That's the narrative. That's the narrative. It can be a really short analysis of this debate, this hour and a half long debate, or it can be a really long one. The really short one will be Joe Biden couldn't really get through it. And the long one will be Joe Biden really couldn't get through it because he froze 11, 12 minutes in. On January 6th, he had a couple of recited lines that we all know about it. We don't need those lines about everything we know and saw on January 6th. Those became his comeback twos when he got stuck on an actual point. It was really hard. It was really hard for him to get through this whole thing. This was one of the major points that I saw, because Biden started hitting some of those soft spots that maybe people would expect him to hit on Donald Trump. And any pre-debate decisions or discussions about this, I didn't do. But I was thinking he should avoid talking about how he just got convicted on 34 felonies. He should. Joe Biden should avoid that. And he should also not talk about the details of that trial and all the salaciousness and cheating. And then therefore he had a baby at home. I mean, a pregnant wife at home, all that stuff. It's so once he finally pulled that out, because they determined that this is the process you go. And Joe, by 43 minutes in, he's going to be frustrated, and you hit him with this. And he wasn't frustrated. Joe Biden wasn't able to get through it. So when he then gave him these lines about, and you had sex with a porn star, and then you paid her off to not tell, all that's true, but nobody can pay attention to that because now it sounds like you were getting a little bit frustrated. And whether he was or not, this isn't whether or not he was or wasn't frustrated. It then looked like, because that's all these debates really are, it then looked like you decided to go for these soft spots of him being a felon, which he is, and of him then having that whole salacious affair, which he did. But no one cares because they're too busy going, man, he sounded a little bit frustrated when he did that. It's just the truth. Sorry, it's just the truth. So some folks are saying, is it too late to drop Biden? Yes, that is the question of the day. There was absolutely no policy presented. Thank you. SN0 says a little bit here and there, but nothing with any detail. And in those moments when Trump was peddling any lie that he could, if you rebut him with some of the things that would have dispelled those lies, it'd have been straight back to boring time. And that's the other part about this. Joe Biden would have had to be boring to go through all those things, but he'd have to be precise. He'd have to remember stats, figures, or at least something that his opponent said one time. You got to bring it all back together. You're debating, not just there to recite the practice lines that you went through. There's supposed to be maybe 2 or 3 practice lines. And the worst one, where is it? I want to see if I remember it, but I want to read what I wrote down to make sure that we saw exactly what he was talking about. It was so bad. It was because then it was talking about his son and the military and the suckers and losers line that Donald Trump had, which he continues to deny. Fine, let him keep denying it. People that know or figured who he is and the other things he said about the military have already made up their mind on that. We don't need it again. But still, he brought it together and said, my son, of course, he lost a son after he came back from combat and had, some form of cancer from next to those burn pits. We've heard those stories, right? And it was a devastating story. We've seen so much tragedy in his life, within his family. And they told him, I guess, I mean, this is my speculation. I wasn't in the prep room, but it seems that they told him to then say, those soldiers that died weren't suckers and losers. My son wasn't a sucker and loser either. And it was supposed to be those punchlines. It's going to go down in history as one of those devastating knockout blows that old Joe gave old Don. And it didn't land at all. Not because it wasn't a decent idea. I wouldn't have done it, but whatever. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm not a political prep guy. I don't run campaigns. But when you look as bad as he was looking at that time, and then go with that line, it looks like a desperation swing, like the boxer's getting his ass whooped in the corner. And again, not because the guy who's whooping his ass is actually doing anything well. He's not boxing well. He's just going against a guy who has no idea what he's doing. And he's in the corner, and then he just starts swinging, and he lands a shot in this guy's stomach. And people go, oh, yeah, okay. It's still kind of bloody over there, though, bro. That's what it felt like. And it felt like he was planning to land that shot right when he was planning to land it. It didn't seem authentic at all. Yeah, someone said they took TJ Diamond 26 said they took notes and Trump never answered any of the questions. 100% at all. He answered some forms of them. And then when it was direct questions, he really didn't want to answer, like Social Security, cost of childcare. Neither one of them answered that question. And they both went to talking about golf. That was actually the most frustrating part of the whole thing from both of them. That was the moment when I said, yo, Donald Trump has been allowing the slow guy to not get anywhere this whole time. And then he decided to engage with him on this golf battle and their handicaps and who can drive the ball further. Well, Don, I'm still challenging to that that driving challenge. Who gives a hot damn about your driving challenge? When we were just asking about child health care, was it really on that question? Let me double check my notes. When they start talking about their golf game, no, they were talking about each other's ages. So that made more sense. So they're talking about how old each of them is. And then, of course, Trump went into his cognitive abilities and took 4 different tests. And each test that he took, he broke the previous one before it. They had to create a new test just for me to take because I kept breaking all of them. Every doctor that tested me, head exploded every time I answered a question. I was that amazing. But you couldn't even get a chance to go, Donald Trump, you sound like an effing clown. You couldn't even go that way. You couldn't even highlight that he said he was breaking cognitive tests. He couldn't even go that far because we're too busy waiting to see if Joe Biden is going to be able to be there for the next question. Did you see the theme yet? Oh, that was the theme. Am I talking too fast? Sometimes I have a million things in my head and I just have to get it all out. I mean, I think it's a little better than the pace that Joe Biden was going at tonight. Whew. I'm just curious. Sorry, you guys. So we'll give a couple seconds to see what y'all thought was. Maybe I'm wrong. I was in here by myself watching. And I was bouncing ideas off of my own head. Maybe I saw a completely different debate. I looked at some clips from folks who were Biden leaning. Some folks tried to go in some positive directions with Joe Biden tonight. There weren't many. I think maybe there was one. Maybe. I think there was one when it was when finally, because Donald Trump was asked 3 times to say that he would accept the results of the election, and he still refused to say so. And I think Joe Biden said he's whiner. He said that at least in the most authentic way. I don't think that part was planned. That's the only reason that one came out well, because he called him a whiner, because he's been whining for the past 4 years about losing. Just say that. Donald, you've been whining for the last 4 years about losing. You still have stipulations on your answer whether or not you'll accept the next election. You still haven't answered the question yet. And don't ask him. Be like, and look at the camera and say, you know why he's not answering the question? Because the dude is an authoritarian. He wants to be a dictator. He said it every time he stepped in front of a microphone. He does not accept American democracy. It's a very simple answer, bro. It's fine. He's done it a million times. You don't have to practice for that part. We hear him say it all the time. And actually, he looks bad every time he says it. And then you made him look good by looking like you did tonight. Oh, what else you guys saying? BC host, good to see you too. It's good to see all you guys out there. We've been talking for 17 minutes already. Maybe more like 15, because the first couple minutes, I don't say much because I want y'all's happy faces in here first. But I mean, I did post this one point over on X. It definitely put to bed that whole argument that Joe Biden could be coked up and hopped up on energy drinks and Mountain Dew or whatever they just tossed out there, opioids, anything they could say. He had some fentanyl in the system, whatever they were going to say beforehand, because they were afraid for some reason. That was put to bed, because if he had some hopped up drugs in the system, it was a bad batch. Put it that way. Chips Reynolds says the Lincoln Project already put out the clip of the whiner moment. Yeah, because it's really easy to find the 2 moments. It's really easy. The other best moments for Joe Biden was the obvious lying moments for Donald Trump. It's really all. The ones where people at home, I pointed this out too, when people at home were going, oh, Donald Trump is going down that same lying path yet again, talking about how there was a 0 inflation. 0 problems with the economy. Everything was humming beautifully. The grass was greener and the sky was bluer. And then this guy comes in and look what you got. Joe Biden had nothing to say to those blatant lies that the economy was wonderful. Everything was beautiful. Everyone had jobs. He even went to lines talking about how all these migrants are taking black folks' jobs. And before then, talking about how he helped fund HBCUs, which was the same funding that previously was given to those colleges. But people don't pay attention to that stuff. They have no time to. So he knows he can roll straight through that lie. But his main point was saying, you low-level black folks in the jobs that you think that you deserve, yeah, these illegals are coming in and taking all your jobs. Which jobs? Somebody's got to ask these questions. These aren't hard rebuttals. Just bring up the fact that he has no details to anything that he's saying, and then give the details. That's the coaching you can give him. But you have to have it, I guess, enough of it in your head maybe when you're working as president, you don't have much time to really know everything that's happening. I don't know how that would work, but it seemed that way. Let's see. What's everybody talking about? What's going on, Denzel? Denzel McVeigh, miss seeing you guys as well back on here live. Cold-blooded gaming says there wasn't really anything good about this debate. Not really. I mean, I was wondering if there was a humorous moment. Not really. It was frustrating to watch what Biden was doing, and then the folks that knew he would do that, allowing him to do it, and then watching absolutely no one rebut the lies. It's one of the few times you'll see that many litany of lies get told, and then you literally no one said, "Well, that doesn't make any sense." What did I miss? Oh, I guess it's about similar stuff. Nothing to debate. Trump broke the fact check meter. Maybe he did. No one will ever know. Yeah, and I did see someone point out, what are black people's jobs? Nobody's connected enough to the folks that they're saying they're trying to appeal to or get their vote from. So no idea. There's no chance to even refute that point, to point out how ridiculous of a line that was. No chance, because no one cares enough. I see that's the only next question. Next question is then what Trump's going to do as far as a running mate, because he's got to choose between all these folks that have been running around on their knees behind him for the past couple of months, maybe a month and a half. Grumpy old men out there, absolutely. Now this is the one point. I guess this is a good question. I'm glad Alex Ward you said this. Said I'd still vote for the sleepy Labrador Retriever than the homicidal crocodile. I see your point. But the thing is, people that see it that way would have to be engaged enough to know why you would not go for the crocodile that said, "I'm going to eat you." So, but not enough. I guess I can't say not enough people pay attention, but not enough people are paying enough to the attention to the details of the things that these guys say and the results and the consequences of each of these decisions. The fact that all these economists came out talking about the disaster that Donald Trump is. Didn't bring that up. I think he kind of brushed on it, or maybe unless that was a pre-debate analysis. I don't even remember, because nobody's gonna remember that stuff. They're gonna remember that Joe Biden choked up on his words in the first 11 and a half minutes. Have I said that 3 times yet? Just it's all you could think about for the whole rest of the time. Folks are worried that we're all doomed. Incoming Gavin Newsom, incoming Kamala Harris. That's actually a good question. Let's go ahead and pose a direct question. Is it worse to allow this guy to continue doing this, or is it worse to then openly have someone then go in there and replace him? I think both of these answers are bad. No matter which one you do, you're in a bad spot, because they refused to let the guy know before. This probably isn't a good idea. Matter of fact, when he first got into office, I remember this. I'm not sure if everyone remembers this. When Joe Biden first got in office, he said, they asked if he's going to be straight away, going to be a 2-term president, running for re-election. He had just got there. He said something along the lines of, we're going 1 term at a time, which I think to a degree, something along those lines, don't quote me, which gave me the impression that he was thinking, after these first 4 years, if I don't got it, I don't got it. And I was like, okay, good, because he's beginning to not have it. And when they decided to do it again, I don't know whose decision that was. But at that point, it immediately became too late. If they decided 2 days after he said, I'm running for re-election, it'd have been too late. It would look bad immediately. So say after this debate doing that? Bad idea. What do you guys think? Bad idea. You can't replace him and you can't keep him. What do you do? You trust that people that are paying attention to the things and the lack of freedoms that Donald Trump has promised to implement, a lack of freedoms, that people remember that rather than this guy who couldn't say those simple phrases. And so Joe's public, there was the stutter. I'm glad you brought that up. Loves Kimberly did point out that Joe Biden has a stutter outside of the fact of being, I think they said 82 years old. He's in his 80s, 81 maybe. That he has a stutter, and that played a part in I was recognizing a stutter versus a loss of memory or a loss of conscious stream of where he wanted to go with his point. Two different things. The stutters, I honestly, they didn't bother me at all. It was actually the not remembering what you're talking about part that kind of just disturbed me a little bit more. Saturn Dragonfly said CNN was a bad choice. Why is that though? I'm curious. Not that I disagree with it, and I'm curious why you think that it was a bad choice. Because I mean, was it the moderators specifically, those two? Maybe they should have Wolf Blitzer instead of Jake Tapper. And who else was on it? Oh, Dana Bash. Dana Bash and Jake Tapper were the two on it. I don't know why I blanked on who else was on it. I don't know if it was the moderators or versus the place itself. Where else would it have been? MSNBC? It'd have been the same problem. It's not like a different setting was going to have this guy remember all the recited lines that his debate preps told him to do. I don't know who it was. I'm gonna stop. It's so bad. I don't know if they're supposed to fact check. Saturn Dragonfly point out that they didn't fact check. They were trying so hard to appear unbiased. That's true. And that was the reason why MAGA camp, for the weeks building up to it, were saying, what they call him? Fake Tapper, Dana Bash. These guys are coming for them. Marjorie Taylor Greene said that they're coming to kill Donald Trump tonight. She said that earlier. She said those moderators in CNN and Joe Biden, he's going to be 10 feet away from the guy who wants to murder him. That's what she said. So the way that they tried to, characterize the atmosphere before it ever happened was to make sure that the moderators wouldn't say much. But they were already on that. I don't think that would have changed much of anything. But it made sure that there was more of a curious eye on them that really didn't need to be. They already know what it is they're coming off as and how they want to make sure they don't look. But again, I don't have tons of criticism for them. They asked the questions a few times that Trump wouldn't answer, and he just kept not answering it. But other than that, I'm not sure if they have the time to fact check it. What it would look like is even worse for Joe Biden. If Dana Bash and Jake Tapper start fact checking everything that Donald Trump is saying, it would take the entire debate, because that's how it's a laundry list of lies. If they get to breaking up all the lies and tell all the actual truths, they got fact checkers running around and saying something in here. And well, actually, Donald Trump in 2018, you said this. None of that's going to work out. It can't work that way. If anything, and then people go, oh, yeah, I'm glad Dana Bash and Jake Tapper fact checked him in real time and showed how much he's lying. You'd have to pan over and see Joe Biden watching while they do what he can do or couldn't do. Curious what you guys think. Didn't Trump try to give Biden corona last time? Well, yeah. I mean, that did also happen too. He had coronavirus. He gave his entire folks that were helping him with that. Okay, Nicole Dumont, good to see you. Biden's performance was awful. Trump didn't answer questions except to lie without fact check. 100%. I completely agree with your insight. Of course. Thank you. Our Siamese cat pays attention to nothing as much as me on the TV. Oh, I'm not sure what it is that I'm doing, but I'm glad the Siamese cat is all about it. Trump tried to tell us we didn't see him say they were good. They were the good side. Matt Samaha says this. I'm not sure what he was trying to tell us, but I mean, the one thing he was trying to tell us, but I mean, I think other folks were telling us that. The stuff that Trump was trying to tell us was that Biden's going to come in here roaring like a lion, and then maybe a murder plot was on the horizon. It was really weird. It was actually other folks who actually want to see a candidate say the things that they need to say come in that's been saying for months that he should be replaced. I didn't have an opinion on it because again, it's a bad look. I don't care when you do it. It's a bad look. More of what you guys have to say. Just again, I know sometimes you guys ask these questions. Just a quick side note. Yes, this is the Watch List Live post-debate. Quick analysis, my first thoughts, my millions of thoughts that I haven't even got near to because there's too many of them to go through. We do this every once in a while. I say a few times a week. I jump on here, discuss something that's on my mind that I didn't want to have a full-on video put to the side that I talk in detail about with interspliced with all these other videos. Just me giving my thoughts, maybe even me chatting up with you guys a little bit. We do it every once in a while. It's not the whole show live, but it's here and there. I really need somebody to give Joe Biden a cough drop for my life. That was from G. Martinez Mac. So this is the next step. As we've seen Trump stumble and bumble in debates or have a really bad rally, or maybe when he was president, he had these press conferences where he made himself look like a clown over and over again. Then the next day you wonder, oh, what are the conservative network going to say about this? How are they going to hide this? How are they going to cover this and spin this to make this look good? Right now, I'm sure on CNN and MSNBC, Fox News, they're all in the spin room, which is a horrible name for a room where politicians stand to talk about what just happened. That's a negative connotation for them. Anyways, they're in the spin room. I'm sure every Trump surrogate that has the opportunity, especially the ones to be his vice presidential running mate, are like, yes. And you have to wonder, how are Democrats spinning this? The political, all the politicians that are in there, how are they spinning it? I guess I'll have to check later, but it's kind of tough. I see that Jenk and John are also on live. What's up, you guys? I'm sure everyone can check out if they'd like to see all folks talking similarly. I figured everyone's split up amongst everywhere. Who knows where everyone is watching this types of analysis? Maybe they're bouncing back and forth to see each person's perspective. It's actually a good approach. I think we should go that way. But I'm glad you guys are here for the moment, as you may bounce around a little bit more. What else? People talking about how he's got dementia. I mean, I'm not a doctor. What I do know is he wasn't talking. CS451, thank you. Missed the live show as well. Good to see you guys here. J Bills 3000 is watching all three of us. The technology is off the charts in 2024. Loves Kimberly also said, I think Biden did okay for the first debate. It might be the only debate. Again, Donald Trump skipped all the primary debates against all of those Republican folks that ran against him. He skipped them all because he was winning, and he just said, I don't have to. Do you really think he's going to do this debate again? Do you want there to be another debate again? Donald Trump can just say, he couldn't get through that first debate. Why do I need to do another one? It would just look bad if they keep talking about doing more. And if he wants to, Joe Biden has to accept, by the way, he has to. So actually, it's probably a good tactic from Trump world to be like, let's do it again. Just saying. Trump was not that special tonight. I agree, Easty Trey. I agree. Is it Easty Trey? I agree. It's not like he did well. Again, everything he did badly was masked by how bad Joe Biden looked. You didn't have to do anything. He just responded and then didn't answer the questions he didn't want to answer consistently. No one pointed that out. That one guy that was next to him that should have pointed that out never once pointed that out. Maybe once. I don't know. I may have missed it. I tuned out every once in a while because he tuned out every once in a while. Sorry. Am I being too harsh? I don't think so. I mean, is that harsh? It's just what happened. What were we supposed to do? Not say what happened? That's what happened. He wasn't talking tonight. He was reciting lines. Joe Biden was reciting lines. What else you guys got happening? I could talk about a lot more. I still want to ignore what thoughts you guys have. I wish you guys could see how far I'm scrolling and all these things that I wrote for the past hour and a half. Maybe I'll say some of that stuff because I really think I had some. I think some things that I noticed that maybe everyone else. Well, I'm sure a lot of people did, but that was the acceptance results. Oh, the closing statements. Again, it was the illustration of constant prep versus winging it. I mean, depending on the players involved, it could vary back and forth as to which one of those approaches is better. But again, Joe Biden was trying to remember. Bro, I told the story many times on the show. The end of my political career was fourth grade. I ran for treasurer, and I memorized my speech. The kid that beat me had got index cards and was just reading, never looked up at the classroom at all. And I was reciting, I was walking, and then I had a couple of memory points because it was a long speech and I was in the fourth grade, and I didn't win, but I had points as to reasons why I should have been the treasurer to work for the school. And the kid was talking about pizza parties and extended recesses and all that stuff that he can't do because he's in fourth grade. And I was like, this is the political process. You just read some cards that say a bunch of promises that you can't do because you're in the fourth grade, bro. And that's it. I was sickened by the political process. But so I was on the, I know my speech and I'm just going to be authentic about it. And he went to the reciting the cards. It worked in this case. Since they don't have cards, Joe Biden went the route of reciting cards, but he lost his cards. And then Donald Trump went with just rambling, which, worked when no one's paying attention to the fact that he's rambling. Maybe I'll say it for the sixth time. Because Joe Biden was taking up all the energy in the room because everyone was wondering, what's he going to do next? What's he not going to do next? What word is he not going to be able to get out? Man. Let's read some of these comments. I don't even know what everyone's been saying. I'm sorry. I talk a lot, you guys. Chris says, I hope everyone's ready for another Trump term. I don't know. We'll see how much the debate in this kind of response does that. Saturn Dragonfly, that's what happens when you're on your Adderall. Yeah, maybe you're talking about Trump. I mean, I don't think either one of them was on anything. Yes, Trump lied, never answered any questions, but Biden's lack of energy took over the debate. It took it over. It's really weird. Usually high energy takes over a debate, like when Trump kept interrupting last time. But the lack of coherent thought, it took over the debate. The energy was really loud with that. Sandra Wise says, we're doomed. Biden looked beyond awful. The man can't possibly remain the candidate or Trump will win. If you guys just jumped in, I think no matter what, it's a bad look to do that or to not do it. Total devastating dumpster fire, worse than I could have imagined. I imagined it that bad. I can imagine some bad stuff. And that was one of the things that I imagined, which is why, again, from the beginning, I was like, oh, wait a second. No, wait, no, I think he's going the route of just spilling everything in his brain and hoping it gets to the end of that 2 minutes. There was a couple times he didn't finish the 2 minutes. Fine, maybe it's a succinct point. And before he got to the end of the 2 minutes, and then Dana Bash or Jake Tapper said, sir, you've got 58 seconds left. You want to have something else to say about that? Well, yeah, I guess so. And then just no one cares what you say at that point. They just realize that you stopped short, and now there's 2 seconds of silence before the moderators go, you got something else? Anything else? I mean, it was only 2 minutes. I've been talking for 35. Not shutting the hell up. Chester Development says this will give Trump at least a 10-point bump. Bet on it. I don't know. Again, I think there's going to be enough stubborn people that realize how bad this was for Biden, but then also know it doesn't automatically put them in the camp of saying, oh, therefore, all of Trump's policies are going to work out. Because, again, it's if whether or not people pay attention to the policies, the plans, and the histories versus then just going, man, this looked really bad. We must have to have this. Not necessarily. But, again, that's a matter of the level of attention that you pay. Because I don't think anyone who had any kind of conviction about the things that they believed in, because this guy can't say the words of that same conviction, means that they don't have it anymore. That they should no longer believe in that stuff. That's really the only thing left. And it's not, again, maybe that's not a good sign. If that's all you've got. You have to kind of believe in your principles without a guy that says them. Man, am I being too pessimistic? Gesture Development also says most people only focus on 1 or 2 policies, not the whole package. I can buy that as well, too. They're going to have to really push the fact that, the Republican Party is still trying to celebrate their win with Roe versus Wade. And again, how they'll make sure that it's a nationwide ban. They dance around that the whole time. We know that process. But they just have to now say it in pre-prepared statements, remarks, and ads. People forget about this part because that's the only thing they got left. Again, if this is the most important thing, which every pundit and analyst said, this is the most important debate of our entire lifetimes, maybe in world history. Yeah, we went over the top with it. And when you go over the top with it like that, it makes it the most important debate in our lifetimes. And maybe it was in the most important election in our lifetimes. Just like, 2016 was, and 2020, and then 2008, 2004, 2000. Oh, yeah. And 98. And yeah, every election is the most important in our lifetimes. And all the midterms are the most important in our lifetimes because that's the line. I don't even listen to that line anymore. Renato Lira said, keep in mind that Hillary won her debates and lost. And he said Romney won his debates against Obama and then he lost. So yeah, I mean, that's true. Actually, good point. I'm looking for something to give me a different perspective that I'm missing, because I'm sure I am. That did happen. Some people did say that. It just didn't seem so much to be so on the nose of what it was that Biden's opposition was saying. Because then they can say, you see. That's all they got to say. They already have simplistic approaches to everything they say already. So when you don't say anything for them to refute, or any policy for them to really go after it and say, well, ours was the best ever, it would make them look bad if that's their response to it. But he didn't say anything. Kyle Super Baby says it was painful. Absolutely, it was painful. And like, wow. It wasn't hard to watch for me. It was just more, is this going to get worse? Like, you just wondered to the degree to which the fall off would be. Nobody wins when Trump is in the debate. We're all dumber for having listened to him. Yeah, well, I mean, honestly, what it may be is folks have more of an opportunity to see perspectives that are based in reality if they look back at the things that he said and actually analyze them, fact check it themselves, read up on something. Just read an article. There's plenty of stuff that a lot of folks don't know about. I don't think you guys really think this, but I don't know all this stuff. When something pops up that I don't know anything about, you just read multiple articles from different perspectives about that topic, and you might get your own perspective on it. It's not really easy, but it takes time. And that's the problem. Most people have jobs that they have to do that don't require them reading 18 articles a day about 3 different subjects just to get the full perspective on it, because so many politicians and pundits lie about just that same subject. It's why this was such a big deal. It's why when people don't know when Donald Trump's lying, because they haven't had the opportunity to analyze everything that he says, because they're working. Then this is those opportunities for you to fill in those blanks. He didn't do it. That's the biggest issue with not being able to speak, is the folks who didn't get a chance to really know all the lies that are being told still don't know because you didn't tell them. And you don't have to say it in a combative way. You don't have to go through the whole fight back and forth and you're a liar. Just point out the BS and then tell the truth after. Oh, well, that doesn't make any sense. I'm going to tell you why. Bang, 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 bang. Don't have to be mean about it. Nothing. Don't have to hit him with the what he figured and what they figured would be the devastating blows and finally anger Donald Trump. None of that had to happen. It didn't work anyway. Renato Lira says, at the end of the day, whether we like it or not, it's going to be Biden versus Trump. This isn't changing my vote. Agree. I do think there's going to be plenty of people on that approach, because again, just because the guy can't get your perspective out, or his own perspective out, doesn't mean that you suddenly adopt the one that said, I hate you. Biden looks older than his actual age. He was about, I think he was dancing around what you may expect. But you know what else? Something I saw it, but it wasn't even worth noticing. Donald Trump didn't look great as far as physically. Both of them, look weathered because they're 80 years old. That's what 80 years old does. It weathers you. So they look weathered. Donald Trump looked weathered, but no one had to pay attention to that because he didn't sound as bad. So anyways, glad you guys have been here. We'll see where the fallout goes. I want to see what these analysts are saying. I wish I could have had them set and ready for you to talk, and I can break down some of the things they've been saying, because I wonder where the spins are going. But pay attention to your MSNBCs in the morning and your liberal punditry. The only truth that can be told is that was bad. The only truth that can be told, and it's for many reasons. I hope I went through enough of them in these 44 minutes. But the truth is that, and what the consequences or the change that are, or the response to it is, who knows? But that's what people should be talking about, is the response to that, not trying to make this look like anything that it wasn't. It is what it is. In fact, if you try to make it seem like some positive moments throughout the bumbling and stumbling and forgetfulness, you'll make him look worse, because it'll seem like you're not paying attention to reality. We do it all the time with any politician. everyone knows certain politicians are lying directly into the camera because there's facts literally right next to them that show that they're lying. And then we act like they're not doing it. It's a weird thing we do in society when it comes to people in power. We just go, oh, well, yeah, he's lying, but whatever. We do that. So you can't then, after seeing this happen, act like it wasn't what it was. That's what it was. It was bad. So, parting thoughts before I get out of here. Hit the like button. Actually, absolute side note. Thank you, Snow SN0. Doing my job for me. Like this up, you guys. We got videos coming out every day. Might jump on, do another live tomorrow, especially in response to some of this stuff. Put out a couple of videos every day for you guys. More well planned out, thought out perspectives that I have on all of these topics that as we go through this election season. Check us out regularly. If you like what we're doing, go ahead, subscribe, send it off to some friends, let them know what's going on. It'll help push things along. Toss some comments in some of those videos as well. And we'll keep this whole thing moving. Look forward to seeing you guys again next time. We'll see. This was a bad night for Joe Biden. See you.